Good afternoon, everybody. We are about to start day one of Lori Daybell's, who knows what number trial this is for her. So we got a little break from Karen Reed today. We will be picking that up tomorrow, Friday, 9 a.m. for the continuation of Karen Reed's trial. But in the meantime, some people will welcome a break, go to a different trial for a moment, and see what's going on with Lori Daybell. If you guys are following what's going on with Lori Daybell, she's already been convicted of she's probably sitting ready for 4 other life sentences at this point. So, what's another one? So she's got this one coming up. And this, I think, is the last one from the whole Lori Daybell situation, shall we say. So that's what we have coming up. Unfortunately, I can't show you the fan. All I can show you at this point is this, which we are waiting on. And I believe that it's a half-hour delay. So whatever's happening in the courtroom, I think there's going to be like a 30-minute delay. So we get it a 30-minute later than everybody else. Not everybody else, but the people that are actually in the courtroom. So I think that's how they're working this, which is why I believe it was supposed to start at 1 their time. I'm sorry. Not 1 their time, 10 their time, 1 our time. And that's why we're just kind of waiting here to see when we're going to actually get the feed. But as soon as we get the feed, we're going to go live as we always do. In the meantime, we'll see what's going on in the chat. We'll see if anybody has any questions with the Karen Reed case. Of course, Lori Daybell has already been a number of cases with the crazy situation there with Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell. And we had her trial with Charles Vallow. So she was convicted of that. So here's another one. She's representing herself, going to be giving her own opening statement, cross-examining witnesses herself. She has advisory counsel there. So if they need to step in at any point, they could. But we'll see how well she does. I think she did last time for Charles Vallow's trial. She was able to do it the entire time, although it didn't help her. But still, she has a few more minutes in the spotlight till she's probably going to be spending the rest of her life behind bars. So, Helen Lewis, thanks to Brother Counsel for covering this today. Yeah, it's a little bit of a quiet day for Karen Reed, so may as well cover some other trials that we have coming up. Marissa, I'm so glad you're covering this. Pro se defendants are my guilty pleasure. LOL. Yeah, well, she's been in the courtroom enough that she should pick up a few things, right? Jersey Tomato, hello, Brother Counsel. Thank you for all your work, sharing your family. My pleasure. Brenda Fisher, anyone know what time it starts? It's supposed to start, I think it was a 1 o'clock. No, I keep saying 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock our time, Eastern time. But for where they are in Arizona, it's supposed to be at 10 a.m. So we'll see how long it goes. We'll see how long we last here. Anyway. The power of empathy is with us. Happy Thursday, everyone. Smash that acknowledge button. Having Wisniewski's for lunch today. No better lunch, especially at the end of a week, to have some Wisniewski's thrown in there. But remember to save some for the weekend. Got to save some of those for the weekend. You can always pick up some more, or you can ask your significant other to pick up some from the store, because at this point, everyone's very familiar with Wisniewski's. It is, after all, the drink of choice for many of us. Evening, Annie. Little Miss, hi, Brother Counsel, blurry lights, and my true crime family. Yeah, this should be interesting, as Little Miss says. The first day of trial, opening statements. Get to lay out the case in case you're not caught up yet, which admittedly I am not as caught up in Lori Daybell as I could be because of all the Karen Reed stuff. So I've been completely knee-deep in all the Karen Reed stuff. So all the other trials have been taking a back seat, for me at least. And once Karen Reed's over, then we can move on to some other trials that people are interested in. But I know there's been a lot of requests to cover some Lori Daybell. People apparently are not sick of her and still want to see another trial with her. So, and as Little Miss points out, Brother Counsel, is this one on a 30-minute delay like our other trial? I believe it is, which is why we are sitting here waiting for the feed to start. As soon as it starts, we will go live with it and watch what's going on in the courtroom. Princess Poof making a final dash for the popcorn and snacks. Hopefully the tomfoolery is on full display with Lori today. She is evil. So I saw some reports it's going to start 1:30, some reports 1:45. Starts 1:45. Okay, it's another couple minutes. We'll just hang out until it begins. Some dude's mom, I was going to watch on East Idaho News, but I'd much rather watch with BC. You got that right. We can pull up that feed if you'd like. We can do the East Idaho News feed if you'd prefer. I've got Court TV up now, but we can do the other one also. And here we go. Looks like something's going on. Well, that doesn't look like the judge right there, so we'll see when they actually go live. But we got a little peek into what's going on there. Lori Daybell not there yet. So still waiting. I'll just pull it down for a minute until they actually get started. Some dude's mom says, I followed every single minute of all of Lori and Chad's cases. I've been following since the kids were missing and Lori and Chad were in Hawaii. Time flies. Wow. It's a long time you've been following. So I guess we got someone in the chat who's very well familiar with this case and all the cases. I did cover a little bit of Chad Daybell's trial when it started. I did a couple of videos on that. But not too much of a deep dive. There's a lot of other things going on at the same time, so I was not able to do that. But here, if you want to see what they like to show, oh wait, they're actually showing the seal. So you don't get the fan. Unfortunately, you don't get the fan, so you're going to have to put on your own fan if you're missing the fan. Danny T, good afternoon from Colorado. Blurry Lights, our moderator. What a great surprise. Thank you, Brother Counsel. And Northwest says that the court started about 8 minutes late. So maybe it's going to be officially 1:38, which is around now. But we'll see. Sarah Treeris, good afternoon, Brother Counsel. Good afternoon to you. Linda Mowbray. Hi, Brother Counsel. Hello to you, Linda. Thanks for joining us. We got some Georgia people here. Murder Coffee Repeat. New theory, who dis? Excited to listen in missing court for Karen Reed today. That's right. It was too hot in Massachusetts for a court to go on today. So guess it's not too hot in Arizona, or maybe they know how to deal with the heat there. Fun Size says this will be very interesting too. It's only the third trial in 2 years for multiple deaths he's involved in. Yeah, terrible, terrible story. I mean, horrific. So we're going to be hearing all about it, I'm sure, in the opening statements. If you haven't heard about it yet, there's some zombies that we get to hear about and some crazy religious stuff we get to hear about. Kind of went off the deep end there. Rachel Parkman, hi from Virginia. KMA, hi, I'm excited to hear something other than Karen Reed today, even for this Bostonian. See, so even Bostonians need a little break from Karen Reed once in a while. So we're going to be getting our break today. And then tomorrow we'll become right back with the Karen Reed case. So, Princess Poof, I wish Karen Reed had a good judge like Lori Daybell's judge. He seems way more fair than Bev. Good judge from what I've seen so far. I think it's the same judge that it was in Charles Vallow's trial. D. Brown, 83. This should be good. You better believe it. Brooklyn, Martin, I'm glad you're streaming it. Saudi Girl is with us. Good morning, BC. Good morning. So here's a little preview of the case. This is for the shooting of Brandon B., Lori's nephew-in-law. Brandon was missed by inches. Alex was a bad shot. So the theory here is that Alex Cox, who was Lori's brother, I believe, he was her brother, who sold into the whole zombies thing. So he was going around trying to kill people, apparently. And he tried to shoot Brandon, and he missed. So Brandon is alive. And here's the reason from Don Hoffman: the feed is a half hour behind because the judge ordered it. So if any sensitive information gets released, it can be corrected prior to going to public. Not a bad practice, I would say. And this is what's going on in court right now. Still waiting. So just hang in there. As soon as it goes live, we will. Jessica Lee is with us. Hello, Jessica. Pam R says, I heard a juror already withdrew. Well, I'm not sure if jurors can withdraw, but they can get dismissed. So maybe that's what happened. Brooklyn wants to know if she's going to come on in a wheelchair. I think yesterday's court hearing, she was not in a wheelchair. So. Skinny Pedal UTV, what's up? How is Brother Counsel's Brother Counsel? I think that's what you mean to ask. And he's doing great. I actually had lunch with him today, talking about a bunch of different things, some other cases. And we'll see if we can get him on Sunday to recap, I don't know, past week and a half in Karen Reed. So hopefully we'll have that Sunday show. Excuse me, he does have some sort of Sunday event that he has to get to, so we have to see scheduling-wise, but hopefully we'll be able to make it happen. All right, so apparently a juror was sick. Flamingo Chicky, is this the same judge as last time? If you're referring to Charles Vallow, I believe it is. I think I like this judge. So we'll see. And this is what's going on in court right now. Still waiting. Jody Arrington, good afternoon, BC in chat. Jody, nice to see you here. See you in the comment sections also. Don Hoffman, can you explain why the trial of Karen is skipping today? Well, the judge Cannone gave two reasons. Number one, because they're ahead of schedule. So if they're ahead of schedule, it may as well slow down a little bit. And number two is because it's supposed to be so hot and they're concerned that they're going to have to get those fans going. There's something with the air conditioning and the fans in the courtroom, which is why they always have to keep their voices up when they're talking. So she was concerned that perhaps since they're already ahead of schedule and it's going to be such a hot day and they're going to have the fans going, it's going to be hard to hear the witnesses. So may as well just take the day off, which is what they did. Dwayne wants to let us know that I just got home. Let me shower and I'll be with you soon. All right. We'll be waiting for you right here. Lynn Porter, glad you're covering this live. Well, got to give the people what they want. From Karen, not to be confused with Karen Reed. Hello, Houston here. We would watch any trial with you. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Kaz, hello, BC in chat. Jennifer Rawson's back with us. Hi, Alabama here. This way up from England. And in case you want to see what's going on in trial right now, there is Lori taking her seat at the defense counsel table. From Southern California, Marsha Barnake. There you go. You got the seal right there. Seal of the state of Arizona. Not quite not quite the same mascot as the fan, but you know. Ray Sellers, glad you're covering this. Antoinette, South Africa here. Love you and your brother. I think a lot of people like my brother more than me, got to be honest. Barbara Ellison is a former Philadelphian. I grew up with a soda by Frank's flavored Wishniak, which was black cherry. I think of that when with the Wisniewski spots. And Rita's been following since Lori's first trial. That's a long time. Sharon Logue, Georgia here. Hello, fellow peaches. Night Owl. Good afternoon to you. Hi, thank you for covering this. I really enjoy your input. Claire Brown, yes, we're used to the heat. LOL. Yeah, you probably are when you live on that side of the country. Lynette Porter coming in from Tennessee. Hello, brother Counsel. Here's the $1 million question from Semantics. Is Salman joining you this Sunday for a show? I really look forward to his thoughts and stories. I hope so. I have to work out the schedule with him. So hopefully we will have a show for you on Sunday with national trial lawyer Solomon Radner. In the meantime, we can take that down. Hi, BC from Ferndale. Assuming that means Michigan. JT. Michelle Underdown. Hi, brother Counsel and chat from the UK. Sassy Southern gal. Good to see Brandon finally get his chance at justice. Just add on to those life sentences that she's already serving. Here's what's going on in court, although we do not hear anything yet. So there looks like they have a sidebar right now. When they have those you see when they have those earphones on, you see how the prosecutor and the blonde all the way on the left, she's got the headphones on. Lori's got the headphones on. You probably can't see. And then you got the judge with the headphones, which means that they are at a sidebar. So they don't go to sidebar, but that's how they do the sidebars there. Tatted T, excited to watch this trial with you. Need a KR break. I think a lot of people are with you. Esmeralda Pesa probably says what a lot of people are thinking. Let's see if we can put up with Lori once more. Laurentia Packies. Hi, brother Counsel from Lori from South Africa. Well, let's let everybody know that Karen Reed's supposed to be finished by Tuesday, but I think that's what Karen was saying that about her own case. Remember, there's rebuttal witnesses also. So it could be the defense will finish their case by Tuesday, but the prosecution are going to be able to call rebuttal witnesses. So Dr. Welcher, for example, is going to be a rebuttal witness. So after Arca testifies, then Welcher's going to be able to get one more stab at it. Murder Coffee repeat. Hi, BC. I hope you can manage to stream this trial and Karen Reed. I know that's a lot of work on you, though. Here we go. About to get started. Jasmine, hi, BC from Germany. Eventually subscribe today? Eventually subscribe? Come on, you got to subscribe right away. Just so you should know, it's free. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, and no one knows the difference except me and the YouTube algorithm, which helps me out. So appreciate it. Jessica Lee, is this trial or jury selection? No, this is trial. Jury selection already completed yesterday, so now we're going to go straight to opening statements as soon as the jury gets in. Jennifer Rawson, first time I'm really catching up on Lori V, only because it's you, BC. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in the jury. We'll commence with the opening statements.
And just switching between different feeds here, Court TV or East Idaho. So we'll stick with Court TV for now. If you want me to switch, I can always switch. Kim A., good afternoon from Crossville, Tennessee, as we're waiting for opening statements.
We'll have access to email right now? Yes. Okay, so maybe an email can be sent to Mr. White to see if, or even your paralegal that's now walking in could see if there's some way to coordinate picking up any documents that are needed.
Alice, 6192, happy to see you're doing this one. She's nuts, but I like the judge. A lot of people like this judge, I think. No nonsense.
Or if they could even be
puts Lori in her
digitally
place.
emailed over. If you need assistance printing them, you can do that too.
Katerina Valento, glad you're back, BC. While you've been away, I cheated on you with Andrea Burkhart. Can you forgive me? I like Andrea, so no problem. If I'm not available, you can absolutely definitely go to Andrea. She is awesome. We had a great conversation. Hopefully we'll do it again on the Karen Reed case and other cases. I know she's very up to date on the Brian Koberger case. I'd love to get with her, to have discussions with her on that. So yeah, no problem at all. Andrea, hey from Italy. Look at that, Jasmine. I'm the new one. All right. Greetings from California, from Katrina. Similar Exp. What's up, brother? I live in Louisiana, says Mary Lou Verboy. Arizona's here, Claire Brown. Power of Empathy, BC will be doing recap of the days you missed. I need your insight. Cross has me nervous.
Members of the jury, welcome back.
Okay, I'm going to step aside a little bit now and let the lawyers talk.
As you can see, we have
And the judge.
extra jurors just in case someone can't proceed, which you observed that we already had to use or let one juror go. At this time, the state can proceed with its opening statement.
Thank you. The Jeep Wrangler. The Texas license plate, no rear tire, and dark tint was parked right up next to Brandon Boudreaux's driveway. Idle. At 9:13 a.m. on October 2nd of 2019, Brandon Boudreaux returned home. That Jeep had been idling there already for over an hour. When Brandon turned onto his street, he immediately noticed this Jeep because it was parked so close to his driveway. The back of the Jeep was facing towards him, and he immediately also noticed that there was no rear tire. He saw a Texas plate on the Jeep, and then he saw that back window of the Jeep open up, a rifle barrel come out and point at him. And then bang, he heard a shot and his window shattered right next to him. Brandon hit the accelerator and he took off. He turned the corner and drove a block or so away and stopped, calling 911. He talked to the operator and told them where this Jeep was going. As Brandon was speaking with the 911 operator, he had no idea that that bullet had struck his car just a few inches from his head. You'll learn that in the back of that Jeep was this defendant's brother, Alex Cox. He had been lying in wait with a rifle for Brandon to return home. This defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, the woman seated over here, had loaned her Jeep to her brother so he could drive it to Arizona, so he could be in the back of that Jeep with very dark tint that no one could see through and wait for Brandon to return home. The goal of this defendant and her co-conspirators, to shoot and kill Brandon Boudreaux. So let's talk about October 2nd and the weeks leading up to that. All of the actions that this defendant did in furtherance of that conspiracy and the premeditated murder of Brandon Boudreaux. I'm going to start with a little background for you. In June of 2019, Brandon Boudreaux was still married to his then wife, Melanie. You're going to learn that Melanie is this defendant's niece. You're going to learn they were very close. And you're going to learn that they both had it out for Brandon. On June 25th, Brandon and Melanie got into an argument. And Brandon learned that this defendant had told his wife that he was gay, that he had hacked into her computer, and that Brandon was trying to work with her then husband to take her temple recommend away. You're going to learn that many of the people, including Brandon and this defendant, are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And having your temple recommend taken away is a very significant event. You're going to learn and see that Brandon actually texted Lori Vallow on the 25th of June to confront her about these lies, and that she never responded. By July, just a short while later, Brandon and Melanie were seeing a mediator and proceeding through a divorce. You're going to also hear that during this time, Lori Vallow and Alex Cox lived here in Arizona. In fact, Lori lived in Chandler. You're going to hear about an incident that occurred on July 11th of 2019 in Chandler involving Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. The Chandler police were out at this defendant's residence, and they took photographs of some vehicles. One of those vehicles was a 2018 Jeep Wrangler with Texas license plates, LWD 0997. That will be very important to you. They also noted that Alex had his own car, a Ford F-150. Both of those vehicles were in Chandler in July. You're going to learn that in August or September, or August through September, Lori Vallow and her brother Alex Cox moved up to Rexburg, Idaho, to be closer to this defendant's soon-to-be husband, Chad Daybell. Both of them moved into a complex at 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho. Lori took the Jeep Wrangler and a Nissan Rogue, and Alex brought his Ford F-150. So everyone had their own vehicles. You're going to learn that as the divorce is proceeding between Brandon and his then wife, Melanie, that they put their house up for sale. And Melanie moved out and got a rental property. When their house finally sold, Brandon had to rent a home too. And on September 13th of 2019, he rented the house at 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert. Brandon will tell you his plan initially was to stay in his own house almost up to the time of the closing and then move into the rental property. You will see a text message that Melanie asked Brandon for his new address. They had children in common, so he didn't think anything of this. And he sent her the address. That was on September 17th. You'll learn that Melanie Boudreaux, this defendant's niece, was the only person who knew Brandon's address, who knew 3875 East Phelps Street, and who also knew this defendant and Alex Cox. Brandon barely moved into that house before the shooting. In fact, he'd moved in sooner than he thought because Melanie told him she was going out of town and offered him the kids for an extra weekend. And so he moved in sooner and took the kids while she flew to Rexburg, Idaho on September 26th through the 29th to be with this defendant. So in the weeks leading up to this October 2nd shooting, we'll talk about all of these things that were done in furtherance of this conspiracy, starting with Lori Vallow's Jeep. You'll learn that Alex Cox searched out a place to have extra window tinting put on the Jeep. And I say that because you're going to see the photos from the Jeep in July, and you'll see there's tinting on the windows, but you can still see into it. And so on September 25th, Alex Cox took that Jeep to Dan's Window Tinting in Rexburg, Idaho, and he paid $200 to put some of the darkest tint you could put on it. You'll see those photos of what that Jeep looked like afterwards. This is the first action of this defendant, Lori Vallow, in the conspiracy, loaning her brother this Jeep and allowing him to put on these dark tint to get it ready so he can lie in wait and no one could see him in the back with that rifle. It is her first mistake, using that Jeep and tying herself to the conspiracy and to the premeditation. Also on September 25th, you're going to learn that Lori Vallow and her accomplice, Alex Cox, went to the Walmart Superstore in Idaho Falls. You're going to learn that's not far from Rexburg. And they purchased a burner phone. Now, a burner phone is a phone that you don't have to put your subscriber information to. And so how do we know that Alex Cox was there and Lori Vallow was there? Well, you're going to learn that each had their own cell phone, like most of us do, and that Alex Cox's cell phone was utilizing Wi-Fi inside that Walmart at the time that burner phone was purchased with cash. And you'll learn that this defendant's cell phone that was subscribed to her was utilizing cell towers in the area of that Walmart at the time that that burner phone was purchased. Lori Vallow and Alex Cox knew that he would need a phone when he got down here, but they knew you don't want to bring your own phone. It's a great, you'll be tracked, right? So they bought this burner phone so that Alex would have contact while he drove down here and away. But Alex made a mistake, because like any other phone, you can still use a burner phone to access Google or your Gmail accounts. And you're going to learn that Alex accessed his Gmail account. In this investigation, you'll learn the police executed many, many search warrants, and one of them was on Alex Cox's Gmail account, homerjmaximus@gmail.com. You're going to learn that Alex searched for things like window tinting in Rexburg, that he searched for places to practice shooting ranges. You're going to learn that he searched different things about angles or trajectories of shots. You're going to learn that the day before, on October 1st and the morning of October 2nd, he searched 3875 East Phelps Street, where Brandon Boudreaux lived. You're going to learn that after the shooting, Alex Cox actually searched for directions on how to get away through a back road. He knew he hadn't killed Brandon. Brandon's calling 911, and so he searched for Pine Top, Holbrook, Moab, Utah, Fillmore, Utah, and eventually Idaho Falls as he made his way back through back roads. You're going to learn that the police also executed search warrants on this defendant's Gmail account, lollytimeforever@gmail.com. On September 30th, the day when her brother took her Jeep and started driving down to Arizona, she searched, quote, how to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler. And she also searched a YouTube video, Jeep Wrangler JK rear seat removal, how to DIY YouTube video. This defendant continued to be a co-conspirator and to aid her accomplice, Alex Cox, by searching how to remove that back seat of the Jeep so he could better lie in wait to shoot Brandon. This was the defendant's second mistake, and more evidence of her being a co-conspirator and the premeditation. This defendant also, on September 30th, began aiding Alex by becoming his alibi. You'll hear from Nick Valance, who is an FBI agent who deals with cellular analysis, that around 4:30 p.m. on September 30th, Alex Cox's cell phone, the one that he subscribed to, moved from his apartment in this same complex where he and Lori Vallow lived to Lori Vallow's unit. And from them on for the next couple days, Alex Cox's phone remained with this defendant. Meanwhile, that burner phone from that Idaho Falls Walmart on September 30th started moving towards Arizona. You will hear that on October 2nd of 2019, at about 8 in the morning Arizona time, about an hour before the shooting, this defendant created the alibi. She had Alex Cox's phone call her phone like he was still in Rexburg, Idaho, about 24 minutes. Both those cell phones were using the same cell tower in Rexburg, Idaho. This story of evidence co-conspirator and to aid her brother in the shooting. So how do we know, though, that Bordello's Jeep drove from Idaho to Arizona? Well, we're going to start by learning about what we call LPRs, or license plate readers. You will learn and see a photo of Lori Vallow's Jeep in Arizona on October 1st of 2019, up near Holbrook on the I-40. You'll hear that the DEA has a license plate reader there, and they took a photo of Lori Vallow's Jeep with that license plate LWD 0997 on its way to Gilbert, Arizona. You're also going to learn that the police later recovered that Jeep back up in Rexburg, and they did a couple different search warrants on it. And what they recovered inside the Jeep, among other things, was a receipt from October 1st of 2019 from Mesa, Arizona, the day before the shooting, from a restaurant called Los Favoritos out on Power Road. You're going to learn that Alex Cox was using his Gmail and Googling an address on Power Road around the time when we then see the receipt. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's Jeep, and Alex's rifle are here in Arizona waiting to commit this shooting. Meanwhile, up in Rexburg, on October 1st, this defendant does a little more additional help. She goes to a storage unit in Rexburg, Idaho, and rents unit C52. The next day, on October 2nd, when this shooting is happening down in Arizona, or after the shooting actually, she brings her soon-to-be husband, Chad Daybell, with her. And you will see video of this as she and Chad Daybell put the rear tire and the rear bench seat of that Jeep into the storage unit. Using the storage unit for that Jeep tire and that bench seat so that her co-conspirator, Alex, could lie in wait in the back of the Jeep, waiting for Brandon to return home that morning. This is, again, evidence of that conspiracy and of the premeditation to kill Brandon. So October 2nd, the morning of this shooting, you will see that Alex Cox was Googling that address, 3875 East Falls Road. His burner phone from Idaho Falls, Idaho, is in Gilbert, Arizona. He's using his Gmail account, and he is using cell towers around Melanie Boudreaux's residence. Now, this is important because Melanie knew that Brandon had their kids. They had 4. She knew that Brandon that morning was going to have to drop off 3 of the kids at school and that they would exchange their youngest. They would meet at a park. Brandon would text Melanie, let her know he was there. She would respond, and they would exchange their youngest child. While Brandon was leaving his house to take his kids to school, that Idaho burner phone moves to his residence and begins waiting for him. Alex kept the Jeep running as he waited for Brandon to return. What Melanie didn't know was that Brandon was going to the gym after dropping off the kids, and so Alex had to wait longer. You'll hear that one of Brandon's neighbors noticed this Jeep. It's a neighborhood that doesn't have any real easy ingress or egress. You'll see a map of it. So there's very little through traffic. And so the neighborhood knows and recognizes most of the same cars. And you'll hear from a neighbor that as he was backing out, he saw this Jeep parked the wrong way on the road, nose to nose with another vehicle that he did recognize. He saw the dark tinting. He saw it was running, and he thought it just stood out as unusual in his neighborhood. It made him actually look into his rearview mirror to note it had a Texas license plate. This was about 30 plus minutes before Brandon arrived home. When Brandon got to the house that day, Alex was ready with the rifle. And we know that he was able to just lift up that back window because the tire wasn't on it. Alex fired one shot. Luckily, he did not hit Brandon. You will see that Brandon was driving a Tesla at the time. And unlike many cars, there's no frame around the window. The window just goes into the door, into the car itself. The shot hit the frame of the vehicle, but right where the window goes up into it. And you'll see that there is damage to the window as well as the bullet hole into the frame of the vehicle itself, right above Brandon's head when he was sitting in that driver's seat. You'll hear that when Brandon took off, the window remained in the door, that he drove away and then eventually circled back around and went into his driveway. You'll hear that for a Tesla, when you put the car in park, the door automatically opens and the whole window just shattered out. Brandon was on the phone with 911 soon after the shooting. You'll hear that call, him actually sounding out of breath from the fear. And he waited for the police to arrive. Alex Cox, of course, is Googling how to get out of there and get back to Rexburg, Idaho. And by October 3rd, he was back there. That same day on October 3rd, you will see that Alex Cox and Lori Vallow went back to the storage unit. They removed that rear tire. They removed the rear seat of the Jeep and took it with them. You will again see video of that. You'll also see that they Googled that day, news in Gilbert, shootings of Brandon, to try to find out what the police knew. How did the police figure out that this defendant and Alex Cox were involved? Well, when the police were interviewing Brandon, they asked him if he had any enemies. Who would want to do this? And Brandon told the police the only people he could think of was Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. He told them that Lori had lived in Texas and that the Jeep had a Texas license plate. And he told them about that incident on July 11th of 2019 in Chandler involving Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. And he believed this was all tied together. You'll hear that the Gilbert police reached out to the Chandler Police Department and learned about that Jeep with the Texas plates, LWD 0997, the same plate that was seen on that license plate reader on October 1st coming into Arizona. The Gilbert police learned that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were living in Rexburg, Idaho, and they reached out to law enforcement there. You'll hear that on November 1st, police in Idaho went to 565 Pioneer Road that apartment complex, and they saw Lori Vallow, they saw Alex Cox, and they saw Chad Daybell. They didn't see the Jeep that day. And so they went back a few days later on November 4th and saw the Jeep located near Lori Vallow's residence. Tires back on it, rear seat is back in it. You'll hear that they impounded it. And on November 18th, the Gilbert police flew to Idaho to process it. You're going to learn about GSR, or gunshot residue. You're going to learn that they process the vehicle. Basically, they're little sticky kits. GSR is microscopic. You can't see it. So you try to collect it, and then you give it to an expert to look through it. You will hear that those kits were sent to the Phoenix Police Department and reviewed, and that particles indicative of gunshot residue were located on the kits that were tested from the rear of that Jeep Wrangler, and that this is consistent with a gun being fired from the rear of the Jeep. You also hear that the Gilbert Police Department collected DNA from areas like the steering wheel, the gear shift, seatbelt buckles, and that they got a blood blot from Alexander Cox. DNA profiles were created from the steering wheel and other areas around the driver's seat. And the DNA was found to be a mixture, multiple people, but the major contributor was Alexander Cox. Again, you will hear that the police executed multiple search warrants on cell phones, cell tower usage, data from Gmail accounts, and data from iCloud accounts. You will see a map of Lori Vallow's cell phone, Alex Cox's cell phone, as well as that burner phone from that Walmart in Idaho Falls, the one that was associated to Alex Cox's Gmail account. You will hear from Nick Valance from the FBI, and he'll show you how that burner phone went from Rexburg, Idaho, down to Gilbert, Arizona, was there for the shooting, and returned back to Rexburg, and was never used again after that. You will learn that the only phone number that burner phone called or received calls from was Chad Daybell, this defendant's soon-to-be husband. The same phone, of course, that was using those cell towers right around Brandon's home at the time of the shooting. This defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, has been charged with conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder of Brandon Boudreaux on October 2nd of 2019. The evidence in this case will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant conspired with Alex Cox and others to kill Brandon. She provided the means, the Jeep, she helped get the Jeep ready, and she tried to provide an alibi for her co-conspirator. At the end of this trial, the state will ask you all to hold this defendant accountable and find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
Would the defense like to give an opening statement at this time?
A very solid opening statement there. Laid it all out for everybody. Pretty clear everything that Lori was involved with. You know, that storage unit, storing everything, burner phone, buying it together with Alex Cox, trying to create an alibi. And by the way, that in itself, I mean, I've seen cases where just the fact that you're trying to create an alibi for somebody, that's enough for the jury to feel that you're involved. In fact, I know I spoke about this in other cases, but there's one of the first cases I covered was Michelle Troconis. And really, I think the thing that nailed her, why I think the jury ultimately found her guilty, because there's a lot of circumstantial evidence in that case, but was the fact that she answered a phone call to create some sort of alibi for Fotis Dulos. So that in itself can be already enough evidence of the conspiracy. But there's obviously a lot more that they have in this case so far. So let's see what Lori has to say. You know, it's like they try to, you know, you get a burner phone, but you don't think to rent a car. that might be a good idea. I mean, I'm not trying to give anybody ideas here, but you take your own car, you buy a burner phone, but you don't spend $30 to rent a car, but they think they're smart, but they always make mistakes. But anyway, innocent until proven guilty. Let's see what Lori Daybell has to say. I'm going to speed it up a drop.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, here we are at trial. And the judicial system can be difficult to understand at times. There are laws and rules and statutes that govern how things will proceed in this trial. You yesterday got to hear the preliminary jury instructions, so you kind of got an order of how things are going to go. In order for someone to be charged with a crime, as I have been,
Your Honor, I'm going to object to argument versus an opening statement.
I'll remind the defendant, an opening statement should be a preview of what is to be expected at trial. So go ahead.
that law enforcement presents evidence that they gather, and the state prosecutors are going to present that to you. Sometimes the state charges the defendant with a crime. They have charged me with a crime, a very serious crime. Sometimes they take the allegations to a grand jury to decide if the
I'm
defendant
going
should
to
be
object again,
charged.
Your Honor. Improper
That's,
argument. Ask to strike.
Hold on. The jury should disregard that last comment. How the charges arrived here are not for the jury's consideration. The prior proceedings are not for the jury's consideration. Please proceed.
Well, starting off really strong here, as we see.
The state or the prosecution will then take the information gathered, the evidence from law enforcement, and present to you a story.
She just continues. She just ignores the judge and just continues with her opening statement, even though it, you just said you're not supposed to do that.
A theory, their hypothesis of what happened. In this case, the prosecutor was not present during this alleged crime. The Gilbert Police Department was not present during this alleged crime. So it is their job to fill in the gaps, make up a theory, and present it to you, the jury, at trial. This is their job. They are not witness to the actual events because they weren't there that day with Brandon at the house when this alleged shooting occurred. This case is about a conspiracy. And a conspiracy is when two or more people make an agreement to commit a crime. They have to willingly and knowingly participate. Conspiracy is an ancient word that appears in the Bible on many occasions. Judas conspired against Jesus with the chief priest for
I'm going to
30 pieces of silver.
object to, unless this is being presented at trial, I'm not sure that this is appropriate opening.
What is the legal objection?
Well, you're arguing. The opening statement is not argument. I'm going to allow it briefly, but I may cut you off depending on where you're going with that.
Cain conspired against Abel, his brother. This case is a case of conspiracy. The charge against me is that I conspired with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux. But you will find, as you begin to see the evidence put forth in this case, that there was not any animosity between Brandon and myself. I personally did not have any motivation to have harm come to Brandon. In fact, Brandon and I had a very friendly relationship all of the time that I have known him. I first met Brandon when he was marrying my niece, Melanie.
And Your Honor, I'm going to object to, unless the defendant's
Hold on.
testifying.
Can I have the parties approach briefly? Can I have you approach briefly?
I guess they could approach now. So here the question is that, she has a lot to say about what their relationship was like if she intends on taking the stand. But if she's not intending on taking the stand, well, then she can't talk about what her relationship is unless someone's going to be able to testify about that, whether there's any animosity or anything like that. Now, I think that there could be an argument that I haven't decided. I can reasonably project that I may take the stand and therefore this evidence will come out. So this actually she may get away with. We'll see. Didn't need to pause that either. And does anybody know what's going on with Melanie? If you can put in the chat if you know anything, that people that know the case a little bit better than me. Anything that's going on with Melanie in this case? Has she been charged or what's her story?
I first met Brandon when he was marrying my niece, Melanie. Melanie and I are very close because my sister, her mother, passed away when she was just 9 years old. So Melanie and I think of each other and love each other like a mother and daughter, even though we are aunt and niece. So our families remained close, Melanie and Brandon's family and my family, in each other's lives, like everyday lives. We spent holidays together and shared in everyday life. I was there for Melanie and Brandon's wedding and for the birth of all 4 of their children. I was also very close to all 4 of their children. In this case, you will hear Brandon himself tell you that someone shot a gun at his car. You will learn in this testimony that Brandon was not hurt. You will learn that he wasn't even sure what had happened. But you will hear that Brandon immediately blamed me, which begs the question, was I an enemy to Brandon? That is news to me, and hopefully by the end of this trial, we will all have some answers to that question. In this case, you will learn that Brandon had called 911, and Gilbert Police did respond. You will learn that Brandon speaks of a puke green Jeep, and then he offers the officers a camo green color that he's speaking of on his phone. He says a green Jeep. Then you will hear the neighbor who says that it was a dark blue Jeep that was parked in front of the neighbor's house. You will learn that Brandon very quickly hired a private investigator to find out where I was living out of the state of Arizona so he could inform the police. You will see Brandon exchange email information with Detective Pillar, the case agent in this case, about my whereabouts and about the financial dealings of my niece, Melanie Boudreaux. You will learn that Brandon was not particularly satisfied with the investigation that Gilbert Police was conducting, so he did his own investigation, hiring his own private investigator to follow his wife, Melanie Boudreaux. You will find out that Brandon had access to the VIN number of a Jeep and gave it to the police. You will find out that after that event, he quickly changed his story from a camo green Jeep to a gray Jeep. You will then learn that Brandon continued to provide information he was personally finding out to Detective Pillar, the case agent in this case. You will learn that Detective Pillar and Brandon discussed through email how they can demonstrate Melanie's financial gain if Brandon were to have died around October 2nd, 2019. This is what a conspiracy looks like. 2 people trying to set up another person for a crime. My niece, Melanie Boudreaux, is named by the state as a co-conspirator. However, she has not been charged with the crime.
I'm going to object.
But
and
I
have
have-
that
Oh,
struck
boy.
as well, Your Honor.
Jury
Oh,
should
yeah.
disregard that statement. You're going to receive an instruction later that all persons that may be involved would not necessarily be charged or called as witnesses, and you'll follow those instructions later. Go ahead.
I was not living in Arizona at the time this alleged incident happened on October 2nd, 2019. I was not even aware such an event had taken place. I did have a close relationship with my brother Alex, but I was not aware of his every move. Melanie also had a close relationship with Alex, but also was not aware of his location at all times. Brandon and Alex also had a good relationship until this accusation. They saw each other frequently at all of our family parties and get-togethers and would often be seen laughing and talking. Alex was a comedian who kept our family laughing. Alex passed away in December 2019 of natural causes, so he is not here to defend himself.
And I'm going to object again to that as well, since he's not party to this. He's
All
not
right,
here.
I'll just remind the jury that what is said in opening statements is not evidence. It's not sworn testimony. Please proceed.
Although the state has alleged that there are several co-conspirators in this case, I am the only one being charged with the crime. So you will be the judge. You will hear and see evidence presented by the state. The state has, according to the law, 100% burden to prove to you
I'm
that
going
a
to object to misstatement
crime-
of the law in terms of 100%.
All right, again, this is a little bit bordering on argument, but the jury will receive the instructions on what is and what is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
the state has the burden to prove that a crime has been committed here and that I committed that crime. That is the way the law is written. I do not have to show any evidence or put up a defense. I do not have to testify. That is the law. The prosecutors from the state have to prove to you that I conspired, meaning made an agreement with my brother to murder Brandon. So you will decide. Right now, according to the law, I am innocent. I remain innocent until the state of Arizona and its prosecutors show you enough evidence to convince you that I had anything to do with this alleged crime. And I want you to look carefully and determine if this event was a crime at all. Did a shooting actually occur? Only Brandon claims that it did. Only Brandon names me and Alex. You will learn that Brandon himself did own a gun. You will learn that Brandon knew how to shoot his gun. You will learn that Brandon and Melanie were going through a divorce. And you will learn that even though Brandon is the one who actually filed for a divorce, he was blaming me for his divorce. You will learn that the information that the Gilbert Police Department and Detective Pillar, the case agent on this case, learned about me and my brother Alex was from Brandon Boudreaux. You will learn that Brandon and Detective Pillar communicated frequently and were on a first-name basis. I want you to look closely at the motivation of Brandon and the Gilbert Police Department, because I'm the only one charged with the crime, and I need you to decipher what really happened here, because I'm the only one who's being asked to pay a consequence for this
And
crime.
again, Your Honor, I'm going to ask to object and strike that.
Sustained, the jury in their instructions received an instruction that said the jury is not to consider a penalty. That will be in the final instructions there as well. The jury's job is to determine whether or not the state has proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt or the charge beyond a reasonable doubt. Go ahead, proceed.
You will hear many references during this trial about the state versus Lori Daybell. Well, who is the state? The state are the prosecutors.
I object to argument and relevance.
Sustained.
And you, the jury, are brought in to stand between the state and me.
And I'm going to object again to improper statement of the law, argument and relevance.
Sustained.
You are here to say if a crime has even been committed at all. You are here to say if I committed this very crime and if the state proved this to you beyond a reasonable doubt. If at the end of this trial you have reasonable doubt, then I remain innocent. If the state does not prove to you that I, 1, committed a crime, and 2, committed this crime, then I remain innocent. In this case, you will hear a lot of speculation. The definition of speculation is an idea or...
Here's a question. Is this normal to object this many times during an opening statement? No, nothing about this is normal. Nothing about this entire case is normal. So, yeah, don't take your ideas about how trials are supposed to be conducted from Lori Daybell's opening statements. I do occasionally, we will occasionally when you have lawyers, we'll get objections during opening statements if you're really towing the line of argument. Usually we kind of know how to do that without making it obvious that we're making an argument. So we make it look like we're just stating the facts in a certain way, and but there could be some arguments snuck in there. But when you're not skilled in this, well, then it just comes out like what we're seeing now, and therefore you go way off the rails, like what Lori's doing, and therefore, of course, you're going to have to object, and that's why you're seeing so many objections here. So if there's one thing we can learn, always get a lawyer. Don't do it yourself.
Guess about something that is not known. During this trial, the state will try to convince you that I committed this crime by using speculation, innuendo, and insinuation.
That's objection. That's also argument.
And the state is hoping that this will be enough. In this trial, you will in fact witness a power struggle between the state and the defendant.
Your Honor,
For what
I'm
a fact
gonna object to
really
argument.
is.
Sustained.
Yep.
Because they want to convince you, the jury, that a fact is speculation, that a fact is innuendo,
This is also
that a
argument.
fact is insinuation, that they knew what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was planning.
This is all
and
argument.
They don't know it all. You, the jury, have all the power to decide what the facts are and what they're not. Not the state, not the judge, not law enforcement, you. So I implore you to listen carefully and decide for yourselves if the state's theory really makes logical sense. What motivation did I have? What malice have I ever shown to anyone? What benefit would I gain? I am a person who loves all people and has no malice towards anyone, not even the prosecutors who wrongfully try to convict me.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again to relevance and to argument.
Sustained.
That's argument.
I am all about spreading love and will continue to do so, even after this trial is complete, no matter the result. Thank you.
Remember in the Karen Reed case yesterday, there was talk about a dumpster. I think we might be seeing that play out right here.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. The state will call Brandon to address.
Wow, Brandon's taking the stand right away. Okay, well,
Your Honor,
Mr.
could we have
Boudreaux, you're going to come up here and be sworn in by the clerk.
Can you please state and spell your first and your last name?
well, let me tell you, if there's one day that you want to watch, this is it. I mean, this is Brandon taking the stand the first day, first witness, right after that opening statement, which was a complete debacle. I actually think that I remember watching her opening statement in Charles Vallow, and I think she did a better job, to be honest, in Charles Vallow. I think there's less objections, and she stayed more on course with what an opening statement's supposed to look like. And again, I do want to say like that as a lawyer, what you're doing in opening statement may not seem like argument, and that's how you kind of dress it up. Although, again, like you said, you can kind of sprinkle and arrange it in a way that you can try to kind of make some arguments as you're going along without making it as obvious as Lori Daybell did. So, but anyway, here we go.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, sir, go around the court reporter. Have a seat up here to my left.
Your Honor, could we have a sidebar?
Is it about what we discussed earlier?
Mhm.
The state's probably going to, you won't complete your direct before lunch.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
I will have it out for a second. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux. I live here in Arizona.
And you can pull the mic just a little closer to you and roll in a little closer. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. How old are you, Brandon?
I'm 40 years old.
You said you're currently living in Arizona?
I am, yes.
What do you do for a living?
Currently, I own a solar company.
Okay. I want to talk to you sort of about your marriages. Are you currently married?
I am.
Do you have a prior marriage?
I did, yes.
I want to talk about your prior marriage. When did you get married initially?
I was married initially October 31st, 2008.
And who were you married to?
Melanie Cope at the time, she became Boudreaux.
How long were you and Melanie married?
A little over 10 years.
Did you two have any children?
We have 4.
Do you recall approximately when you began divorce proceedings with Melanie?
It would have been in July of 2019.
And do you recall approximately when your divorce with Melanie was finalized?
It would have been in October of 2019.
Was it before or after October 2nd?
It was the middle of October.
Okay.
So after.
Now, do you have family here in Arizona?
I have a brother who lives in Tucson now, but at the time I did not have any family here in Arizona.
They live in another state.
Yes.
Did Melanie have family that lived here in Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Did you know someone by the name of Lori Vallow?
I did. That was Melanie's aunt.
And did you spend a lot of time with Melanie's aunt, Lori Vallow?
Yes, we spent a lot of time together.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point her out and tell us what she's wearing?
She's directly behind you wearing glasses and a blue top.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Good job.
When you knew or were spending time with Lori Vallow, was she married at that time?
She was.
Who was her husband then?
Charles Vallow.
And how often would you see Lori Vallow and her family?
Pretty often. We would spend holidays together. We often vacationed together, and our children were close, so it wouldn't be unordinary to see each other every week.
Were you close with Lori Vallow's prior husband, Charles Vallow?
I was, yes.
Did you know other members of Melanie's sort of expanded family?
Yes, I did.
Did you know a person by the name of Alex Cox?
Yes, I did.
Who was he in relation to Melanie?
That would be her uncle.
So Lori's brother?
Correct, yes.
And before your divorce from Melanie, did you see Alex Cox often?
Not as often as Lori, but yes, I did see him.
Okay.
Usually at a family get together.
Did you know anyone by the name of Chad Daybell?
No, I did not.
Did you later become aware that Lori Vallow married a Chad Daybell?
Yes, I did.
Can you try to describe for us the relationship between Melanie your ex-wife, and her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I would say that she looked at her as maybe more than an aunt, like closer to a mother figure. Her mother passed away when she was younger, and she let her hold a lot of influence in her life.
Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending a lot more time with Lori?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. Starting sort of the end of 2018 through 2019, did you notice Melanie spending more time with Lori?
Yes.
In 2019, did you start to notice issues with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did.
Without going into what was said, did you ever speak with Charles Vallow about Lori Vallow interfering with your marriage with Melanie?
Yes, I did, on a few occasions.
I want to talk to you about June 25th of 2019. Did that day stick out to you?
Yes, it does.
Why do you remember that date?
On June 25th of 2019, I had a long disagreement with my then wife. My grandfather had passed away suddenly of a heart attack a few days earlier, and she told me she didn't want to go to his funeral, and that had led to the start of a disagreement that quickly changed and was very different than what I thought was going on.
I'm going to have you put your mic just a little closer to you.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. So you said it started out as a conversation about going to your grandfather's funeral,
Yes,
and then it changed into something different?
it did, yes.
During this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, were you accused or told that you had been involved in doing some things to her aunt, Lori Vallow?
I was, yes. This sticks out because it was so bizarre to me. I was trying to talk to my wife about our relationship, and she was using different language that was confusing. She kept saying that she was going to reveal things about me, and it just didn't make sense. And then she accused me of hacking Lori's computer, which I knew I hadn't done, and I didn't know why it mattered to what we were talking about. So, you know, something like that sticks with you because it's just doesn't connect.
Do you know how to hack into other people's computers?
I do not.
So you're being accused of hacking into Lori Vallow's computer. Did anything get raised during this conversation regarding your sexuality?
Yeah, it was a very long argument. It started in the afternoon and went past midnight. And as things kept escalating, more different allegations that didn't make any sense kept coming up, and one of those was that God had revealed to her that I was gay, and that one stuck out because Charles had told me that that Lori was trying to convince her of that, which I thought was so bizarre. It just didn't make any sense. I was married and we had 4 kids, so.
Did you ever hear anything about allegations that you were trying to help Charles take Lori Vallow's temple recommend away?
It didn't come up in that specific argument, other than as a side mention of why I might have hacked a computer. But yes, I did hear those allegations.
I want to ask you, are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes, I am.
Were you and Melanie both practicing members?
We were, yes.
Was Lori Vallow and her family practicing members?
As far as I knew, yes.
When we talk about a temple recommend, what is that?
Inside of our faith, we try to set aside the temple to be a place that's sacred. It's a place where you can be closer to God. And because you want it to be a sacred place, we try to live to a higher standard if we're going to go in there. You know, it's the idea of trying to be more like the Savior's example and keeping promises or covenants that you make to him. And so in that process, most of us self-report to a bishop or an ecclesiastical leader and a stake president or a higher ecclesiastical leader, just to verify that you're doing your best to keep those promises. It's kind of a way to help you assess, to decide if it's a place that you should go, or am I living in a way that I can go and feel good about, trying to get closer to God in that space, and am I living in a way that sets it aside and makes it somewhere special, somewhere sacred?
If someone's temple recommend is removed who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is that a really significant thing?
For most of us, we would feel like, personally, I would feel that way. It's something that is sacred to me, and it is important. And so I would not want to lose that. It would be something that would reflect that I'm not doing a very good job of my goal to try to be more like my Savior.
Okay. When you are having this argument, this conversation with Melanie on June 25th, what are you thinking?
It began with just frustration, which when I took a little time and was introverted and thought about it, I realized wasn't fair. If she didn't want to go to a grandfather's funeral, I recognized that me feeling frustrated was something I should deal with myself, but not try to force someone else to do something that they weren't comfortable with. And then it was just really painful, because the rest of it there's a lot of frustration that comes from, at the end of it, she was asking for a divorce and demanding that we end our marriage. And, I had 4 kids, and this was going to change their entire world. It was going to change everything for my family.
Did you, having spoken with Melanie, feel that Lori Vallow was involved in some of these things that Melanie was telling you, that was why your divorce should end?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. As you are listening to the things that Melanie was telling you that evening or afternoon into the evening of June 25th, did you believe that Lori Vallow had been involved in some of these ideas that were being told to you as to why your marriage should end?
Yeah, I mean, how else does her aunt's computer getting hacked even come up without Lori being involved? So I got pretty frustrated at one point, and I think I told her I'm going to take a break, and I texted Lori and Charles and tried to call both of them to discuss it with them, because I wanted them to understand the gravity. This is my family. This is my kids. This changes the rest of their lives. It's not just whatever was going on for those two.
So you told us that you just mentioned that
So he thought he can just talk reasonably with them, right?
you actually sent a text message or a couple of text messages to Lori Vallow that evening?
Yes, I did.
Can you scoot just a little closer? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why did you text Lori Vallow that night?
Hope that she would have integrity, that she would respond and acknowledge that I didn't hack her computer. I don't know, honestly. Just hope, I was trying to find something to fix the problem.
So you felt strongly enough that Lori Vallow was involved in these ideas that Melanie was putting at you that you actually reached out to her?
Yes.
Your Honor, show the defendant Exhibit 122. I'd like to have my paralegal bring that up. If you look at Exhibit 122, do you recognize those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Are those messages that you sent to Lori Vallow on June 25th of 2019?
Yes, they are.
Do those relate to the allegations that were being told to you by Melanie that Lori had provided her?
Yes, they do.
And that was you trying to fix these things that were lies.
Correct.
State will move to admit Exhibit 122,
Any objection?
No objection.
122 is admitted.
if I may publish. Okay. Brandon, just so we understand, when you were shot at on October 2nd of 2019, did you actually provide the police with your cell phone
I did. Yes.
so they could download everything?
Yes.
And is this from your cell phone?
Yes.
So we see on June 25th of 2019 at 6:45 PM, the first message that you sent? And was this phone number the 808 number, Lori Vallow's phone number?
Correct.
In the message, what did you tell Lori?
I told her that Melanie believed I helped to try to get her temporary recommend taken away, and that we both knew that it wasn't true. Do you want me to just read it?
Sure.
Lori, I sent this to Charles. I'm sending it to you as well. Charles, Melanie believes I helped you to try to get Lori's temple recommend taken away. You and I both know that's not true. She does not believe me. I wanted to send this to both you and Lori. If either of you care at all for me or my children, you'll come forward and be truthful. I've never done anything to hurt either of you. I can't believe you would lie to her about something like this. I gave you a blessing when you're at your worst in my home. My children will be punished if my wife leaves me or can't believe me when I have done nothing. This is on your heads to make it right.
So your initial thing was about that temple recommend because that was so important, right?
Yes.
But that was just one of the lies that had been told to you by Melanie.
Yes, and at this time I didn't know that she also believed that I was gay. That came after I had sent these texts.
And by the way, just also a lot of these questions are objectionable, just technically speaking. If she had a lawyer who's representing her, he'd be objecting to a lot of these type of questions. But because she's doing this on her own, so basically the prosecutor is going to have free reign to ask any type of question, however improper, of these witnesses, and she doesn't know to object. So always get yourself a lawyer.
Did you get a response after this first text?
No.
Do we see then a second text at 9:10 PM, same day, September 25th?
Yes.
What did you say then?
At least have the respect to talk to me to my face, not whispered behind my back. She believes you and you are lying. This is going to affect my children.
Okay. Did she respond to you then?
No.
And a couple minutes later, did you send Lori another message?
I did.
What did you say then?
I will not stop until the truth is known. It says I didn't dip, but a typo. I didn't do the things you said, and because I know I did not, I will find a way to prove it.
Very hard to prove a negative, but yep.
Did Lori ever respond to any of those?
No.
Were you able to convince Melanie that these things that Lori had told her were not true?
No.
Would she listen to you about it?
After that evening, she would never spend time alone with me again. There's always someone else with us everywhere that we ever talked or communicated.
Did you want to get divorced?
No,
Did you agree to a divorce?
I did.
How did you and Melanie decide to go forward with the divorce?
We used a mediator.
How does that work?
You have choices. You can either each get your own lawyer and they can help advocate for you through the process, or you can use a mediator. Those are the two, or you can do it yourselves without lawyers, I guess, as well. And as you go through that divorce process, you really discuss two key concepts: all of the money and the finance side, and then the children when you have children. And so a mediator is helpful in being able to help you understand what the law thinks if you both can't agree on something, and help you go through and think. It's a lot to think about. And you're very I was very emotional going through that. And so they're helpful that they can kind of guide you to make sure you're covering all your bases and you're thinking about the future for your kids, thinking about what's fair in the financials, all of those things.
At that time, what were the ages of your kids? And I got to go back a few years. So in 2019,
9, Braxton would have been 9. And then I would add a 5-year-old and what would like be 2000, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
and you told us that you started to see a mediator sort of in July of 2019.
Yes,
Do you recall if it was the beginning, middle, or end of July?
beginning of July.
So really fairly quickly after you were confronted with these theories of you hacking Lori's computer and trying to take her temple recommend away.
Yeah.
As you went through a mediator, did you agree to have joint custody of your kids?
I did.
By the way, if anybody's familiar with how it works to take away a temple recommend, can you put it in the chat? Just curious if anybody is from the Mormon faith. How does it work? Like if you can then like kind of snitch on somebody else and then they can take away your temple. Is that how it works? Like if you snitch on somebody else, then they take away your temple recommend? Let me know.
Did you and Melanie have a house at the time you were married?
We did, yes. And in the mediation, we agreed to sell it.
Now, prior to the sale of the house, did Melanie move somewhere else to live?
Yeah, we agreed that I would help her find a rental, which we did. And then our house was an expensive house. We were listing it at about $1 million. And so.
Oh, I just want to bring up this question here that was asked. Lomas, if Trina keeps asking objectionable questions, can Laura use that in any way in an appeal, or is she screwed for not protecting the record? Most of the time, she's going to be up a creek without a paddle if you don't object. If you don't object, then it's waived. So there's nothing that's going to help her. There are a few exceptions, like there are always, but these questions, no. If she doesn't object, then it's lost. If the record's not preserved, then she can't appeal it in any way. Also, just wanted to thank Dwayne for the 5 Brother Council memberships. Appreciate that. And let's go on.
Having those young kids inside of it while you're trying to have it show ready all the time was a concern. So we agreed we'd get a rental house where the kids would be able to stay so that they could just be kids and not have to try to live super, super clean. And I would stay in the house and just kind of live in it as a shell house till it's sold.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when Melanie moved out?
July, around the 14th or so, I think. I'm not 100%. It's been 6
Mid-July?
years. Yeah, mid-July.
So the kids were living with Melanie.
There's nothing that'll mess up a marriage more than really, really bad divorce. Really, really bad advice from people who you think care about you. Nothing like that will just completely mess up a marriage.
In the rental house, and you were staying in sort of I'll call it a community property house at this point. Do you recall when your house sold?
In September, I think we got it under contract, and at which point I started looking for a rental house, probably.
For yourself?
Yeah, for me to move into so that we could then do our joint 50-50 custody with our kids.
Did you find a house to rent?
I did.
And was that the 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert?
Yes.
When you were looking for a residence, did you consider at all the location of Melanie's rental house?
Yeah, I tried to, we had agreed we would stay within a couple miles of each other so that it would be convenient for each of us. And I also tried to move close to where I had before I had built the home that we had, I had lived in that same neighborhood. So I tried to move closely to a place my kids would be familiar.
Okay. Did you sign a lease for that 3875 East Phelps Street on September 13th of 2019?
Yes.
What was your plan in terms of when you were going to move into that new house versus staying in the community home?
I was going to stay in the community home until right before we finished everything up. So like the end of September, and then I would move over to the new house.
And when was the community house supposed to close?
October 1st.
Okay. And what was the mediation agreement for that money on October 1st? Who would get what?
It was going to be split between me and Melanie, and it was supposed to all go to one account, and then I would transfer the money over to her.
Okay. So at some point, did the plan ever change as to when you were going to move into the Phelps house?
Yes. I heard from Melanie that I had an option to get my kids early, which I was getting very limited time with my children. That was hard for me. You know, it's difficult going through transitions like that. So she said she was going out of town and that I could have my kids early if I got the house early. And so I was excited, and I quickly changed my plans and made a quick move from the current house into the new house to get ready, because when you have young kids, you have to kind of prepare. You can't just move them in. Everything needs to be kind of organized.
During the mediation, had you and Melanie come up with an agreement as to when each of you would have the children?
Yes.
What was that agreement?
Mondays and Tuesdays would be my days. Wednesdays and Thursdays would be her days. And then we would rotate weekends.
So weekends for you guys was Friday through Sunday?
Correct.
And then how would you hand off the children, and what would happen with your youngest?
I worked, so she would watch my youngest even on my days. And then handoffs would happen at school. If they were in school, we would just drop off and the other person would do the pickup. If they weren't in school, then it would be drop off at each other's houses.
Okay. So you said you worked. Did Melanie work?
She did not.
So Melanie kind of just tells you she's going out of town on the 26th and offers the children to you. Do you recall about when you moved into now this residence on Phelps?
It's been a really long time. Shortly after, I think, that conversation, about a few days prior to when I got the kids. I think it took me a couple days to move in.
So you had the kids on the 26th.
I did, yeah.
How did you told us you had been planning to move in a little bit later. How did you get moved earlier, quicker? Did you have people help you? What'd you do?
My neighbors that lived across the street from me at the house that I was selling noticed that I was moving and offered to help. I just went and got a truck and decided to move. I was excited. I didn't tell anybody even. I just kind of jumped after it. And then one other friend found out, and he brought another friend. So there's 4 people who helped me move. And they were the only people. I mean, I immediately had my kids after. They're the only people who even knew that I had moved. It was a very quick decision.
Now, you told us that part of the agreement would be that you and Melanie would drop off the kids. At any time, did Melanie ask you for the address of your new residence?
Yes, she did.
Did you provide it to her?
Yes, I did.
You think anything of it when she asked you that?
I mean, no, I had said I would give her my address. Always, we had to drop each other the kids, so she had to know where I lived.
Okay. You told us that you hadn't told anyone else her address?
Yeah, it wasn't like out of secrecy. It just hadn't come up yet because it was so quick.
So Melanie knew your address.
Yes,
And then you said 2 of your neighbors helped you move.
correct.
So they knew your address. And then you said one of your friends helped you move.
And then he brought another friend, so 2 of my friends knew where I lived.
Okay, so 5 people knew your address?
Yes.
Shown Defense Counsel 123, if I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes, I do.
Are those the text message between you and Melanie where she asks you for your new address and you provide it to her?
They are.
And was that on September 17th of 2019?
It is.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 123.
Any objection?
No objection.
123 is admitted.
The state will move to publish.
Go ahead.
So again, you told us that you had provided your cell phone to the Gilbert Police Department on October 2nd. Is this from your phone?
Yes,
And so Melanie texted you on September 17th at 10 in the morning. What's your new address?
that's correct.
And a few minutes later, 27 minutes later, you provided her 3875 East Phelps.
Correct.
You told us your parents did not live in Arizona, right?
That's correct.
And at the time, really, you didn't have any family in Arizona. Did your neighbors that helped you move know Lori Vallow?
No,
Did your neighbors that helped you move know Alex Cox?
no,
How about your friend that helped you move, the two people who helped you move with them? Did they know Lori Vallow?
no,
Did they know Alex Cox?
no,
Did you post your address on any LinkedIn or social media?
no.
So on September 17th and on September 26th, when you got the kids, were the only people that knew your address and knew Lori Vallow and Alex Cox, your then wife, Melanie Boudreaux?
Yes,
So on September 26th, you're in your rental house on Phelps Street. You have your children with you. And is this sort of the first time you have been there with your kids?
yes,
And this was over a weekend, correct?
correct.
So you had your kids sort of that weekend of Saturday, the 27th and 28th. And then did you follow your normal schedule now of Monday and Tuesday having the kids?
Yes,
And then was October 2nd sort of Wednesday, October 2nd? And that would be the day you would normally exchange the
correct.
children?
That was the first day that I would not have my kids.
And so on October 2nd would be the day that Melanie would now have control of the kids that evening.
Yes,
So I want to talk a little bit about your schedule with your kids the morning of October 2nd.
Okay.
Can you tell us sort of what your general schedule was? What'd you get up and do with all the kids?
yeah, it's been a long time. You know, my kids are different now, but back then, I would probably wake up an hour and a half early. Got to wake each kid up individually. Kind of, each of them has different needs. I think Breeze was still in diapers. Blake might have even still been in diapers. So you wake them up, you make sure that you get them cleaned up, changed, you feed them. Got to get 3 of the 4 of them dressed. They don't know how to dress themselves. So you got to give yourself time. So probably an hour and a half making food, getting kids ready, making sure everybody's good to go and prepared so that when you get within a short amount of time of school, you can get the 2 that are in elementary school there on time.
All right, so you said you had 2 that were in elementary school. Were they in the same school?
Yes,
And so that leaves 2 other kids.
yes.
What did you do with the other 2 kids?
Blake was in like a pre-K preschool that was right by the new rental that we got Melanie, and then I dropped Breeze off at Melanie's. Well, she didn't want me to come to her house, so I would drop her off at the park, and then watch her run to her mom.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when you left the house that morning to start taking the kids to drop them off at their different locations? Let me ask you this. Do you recall approximately when the kids had to be at school?
7. I probably would have left at 7:30. They probably started at 7:50. That's
And were the schools you said close to your Phelps Street?
it was like probably a 5 or 10 minute drive, depending on if there was some traffic or not.
Okay. So who did you handle first? Where did you go first?
I'd always drop the 2 that were in elementary school first. That was on the way to their mom's house. So we would take those 2, drop them at their school, and then I would drive the rest of the way to their mom's house and at the park and drop at the park right there by her house, and then I would go drop Blake at his school.
So on the morning of October 2nd, did you follow that same schedule and go to the park to drop off your youngest?
Yes.
And how would Melanie know that you were there?
I would text.
Okay. Did you do that morning?
I did.
And then you said you would kind of just once you knew she was there, let your daughter go to her.
Yeah.
So would you visually see her and then let your youngest go to her?
Of course, yeah.
Show Defense Counsel Exhibit 124. I can have my paralegal approach with that.
Thank you, Gloria, for becoming a new member. Appreciate that.
Do you recognize those text messages?
Yes.
And are they from October 2nd of 2019 around 7:40 in the morning?
Yes.
And do they reflect you letting Melanie know that you were there with your youngest?
Yes.
State will move to admit 124.
Any objection?
No objection.
124 is submitted.
If I may publish. So do we see here on October 2nd at 7:40 in the morning, you sent a text message to Melanie saying pulling up,
Correct.
and then you received a message for her that she'd be there in a minute?
Yes.
Were you able to hand off your youngest to Melanie?
Yes.
Did you go home after that?
I did not.
Did you tell Melanie where you were going after that?
I did not.
Where did you go?
I went to the gym.
How long, well, let me ask you this. Where was the gym in relation to your Phelps house?
It was a couple minutes away. It was it was midway between her and my Phelps house.
Okay. And how long were you at the gym? About?
Hour and a half.
Okay. Can you tell us what kind of car you were driving back in October of 2019?
It was a black Tesla Model X.
Two-door, four-door?
4-door. It's
Okay.
like an SUV.
How long had you had that Tesla?
A few years. I bought it, I want to say 3 or 4 years earlier.
Okay. So Melanie knew about that car?
Yes.
You had had it when you two were together,
Correct.
and you continued to have it as you were going through the divorce proceedings.
Correct.
And you drove that Tesla to that park when you exchanged your youngest.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Tesla vehicles. They're electric, right?
They are, yeah.
They drive a little different than gas cars.
They do, yes.
Can you tell us first about the acceleration?
When you're driving a Tesla, they have when you take your foot off the gas, they built in a system that makes it slow down, so it like brakes for you. So they call it one pedal driving, but so when you push it, it'll accelerate really fast because that's just how electric motors work. The torque's very quick, so you can go much quicker. And it also, when you take your foot off the gas, it'll slow down a lot quicker too if you leave that feature on. So it drives very different than a gas car. You don't use the brakes as much.
Okay. So if you take your foot completely off the acceleration pedal, it almost stops.
Yeah, it can be very abrupt. It can feel
Okay.
like hitting the brakes.
And so had you learned over those years how to kind of slow down by taking your foot slowly off that acceleration pedal?
Yeah, you drive different.
Did your Tesla have any type of technology built in to automatically open a garage door when you're within a certain range of it?
Yeah, it did. It had that exact feature. It was when it got in a certain range, it would just send a garage door signal and open it up.
Had you programmed that feature at the Phelps house?
I did, yes.
If you put your Tesla into park, what would happen?
I used the feature where it would make the driver's side door just open automatically for you, so you didn't even have to reach over and open it.
Would it open all the way?
It would just slowly open. Sometimes it would open all the way. Sometimes it would open like a quarter of the way. There's like a sensor to make sure it doesn't hit stuff.
Okay. And so that was something you had programmed already, so every time you put your car in park, that would happen for you.
Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the driver's door of your Tesla. In a lot of cars, we see a metal frame that goes around the window. Did your Tesla have that?
No, they make the window seal up into the frame of the car, and so there's no top frame on the door itself, no metal top frame.
Thank you, Z End Fifth, for that. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the support of you guys.
Shown defendant exhibit 25. I can have my paralegal approach. Do you recognize what that photo is?
That's a photo of my car.
And does that show the door itself without the glass, but the frame of the door?
Yeah, does a really good job showing that.
State will move to admit exhibit 25.
Any objection?
No objection.
25 is admitted.
Okay. So is this actually a picture of your vehicle from October 2nd of 2019?
Yes.
And so we can see that there's no sort of metal frame around where the window would be, right?
Correct.
Okay. And is this actually your glass window right here?
Yes, I believe it fell out when I opened the door, or when I put my car in park.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that morning of October 2nd. You drop off your youngest with Melanie. What did you said you went and dropped off your fourth child at sort of a day pre-K type of course?
Yeah.
And then you went to the gym.
Yes.
After you went to the gym, what did you do?
I drove back from the gym to my house.
Okay. What was your plan that morning?
My plan was to shower and go to work and meet with my business partners, and we had an owners meeting that day.
Okay. Can you tell us what happened when you turned into or onto Phelps Street that morning?
That morning, I made my usual left onto Phelps Street, and there's one house and then my house, and so it's not like you're driving. You're coming through a turn, so you're not moving super fast, and there's not a lot of distance, so I don't really push the gas very hard. But I remember coming around the corner, kind of letting it almost kind of coast as I was waiting for it to catch the signal and send my my garage door up. And while I was doing that, I noticed a Jeep that was parked, and it was really awkward.
Why was it awkward?
Well, it was parked on top of the car that was normally there. So there's usually a van there, and it was just like parked nose to the van. And it was like, the back of it was almost blocking my driveway. It was parked so you just wouldn't think anyone would choose to park like that. So it kind of stood out to you right as you came around that corner. I noticed it had a Texas plate. The other thing that was awkward about it was no back tire, which Jeeps always have the back tire. That's like their thing. So all of that stood out, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of time when you're coming around a corner like that, but all of that just like, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I remember thinking my neighbor must know somebody from Texas, because I'm new. I don't know anybody yet. And I was like, and man, they parked awkward. Like that's a a really crappy park job.
So that we understand, was the Jeep parked sort of the opposite way of traffic?
Yes,
And so when you come around the corner, you're seeing the back of the Jeep.
correct.
And you said it was nose to nose with a white vehicle?
Was it? Yeah, I believe it's a van.
And was that a vehicle you had seen in the few days you had lived there?
Yeah, it had been parked there every day so far.
Okay. So you recognize that one. Was there a lot of other vehicles parked on the street?
No,
Just that Jeep right up to that one and on your driveway?
correct.
When you were coming in and sort of slowing down, what do you see happen?
So as I let the car kind of coast in, the back window pops up. I see a muzzle. I hear a bang. And you know your fight or flight kicks in at that point. So for me, I just immediately thought, and my window shattered. You know, all that happened in like the snap of a finger. And so I just immediately thought someone's shooting at me because I saw a muzzle. So I hit the accelerator and I just went straight. I no longer was planning on turning into my driveway to let the garage door trigger. And
I'm gonna have you pull your mic just a little bit down again.
yeah, I'm sorry. I can lean forward. Could you hear all of that?
So let me go a little bit through it. So you said you saw the rear window open.
Yes.
Is that sort of the window that normally the tire would block from opening?
Yes.
Did you see any hands or anything pushing it open?
I can't say I did. It was, the windows were dark and I remember it lifting and I remember seeing a muzzle.
Let's talk about the muzzle. Could you tell, like, was it a handgun muzzle, a rifle muzzle? What are we talking about?
It looked like a rifle or a long gun. Yes. Also possibly like there was a silencer on it or a suppressor or something, because I remember the muzzle looked a little bit awkward at the end.
Okay. Have you shot guns before?
Yes.
Have you shot rifles before?
Rifles and handguns and shotguns.
Did you grow up sort of shooting, hunting?
Yeah, my family hunts. I'm not a big hunter myself.
But you're familiar then with rifles and shotguns.
Yes.
Had you shot handguns before?
Yes.
So when you saw this, what did you think it was, the muzzle that you saw?
I mean, you had a very short window, but it looked like a rifle to me with maybe a suppressor or something on it.
Okay, so it was able to come out of the window enough that it looked like a rifle to
Yes.
you. You said you heard something. Can you describe that for us?
It's a loud bang, gunshot. That's the only thing I can think of.
And you've heard gunshots before.
Lots of gunshots, yeah.
So you hear this and you recognize that as a gunshot.
Yes,
And you said then your window shattered.
correct.
Did you see a hole through your window?
No, which was confusing. So I was, all this stuff is happening quick. I'm sure I had some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Shock, some form of shock. I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but I remember the first thought I had was I need to call 911. Someone just shot at me. So that, and I remember my phone flying forward and backward because I was driving quickly and accelerating quickly. I remember getting my phone and calling 911 and just, I mean, I remember having a hard time breathing, just feeling overwhelmed that somebody shot at me. And then I think maybe because I was feeling a little guilty or something, I remember thinking like, oh, maybe, there's no bullet in my car. I don't see a bullet hole anywhere. Maybe they did, maybe it wasn't a real gun. Maybe I'm overthinking this, you have a lot of thoughts going through your head.
Did you ever say maybe it was a paint gun?
Yes, I think I did.
Thinking now, have you seen a paint gun before?
Yeah, I've played paintball lots of times.
Does paint come out? And
Not as loud, and it marks stuff everywhere.
would it have left, in your experience, having fired paint guns, does it shoot out paint that you would then see?
Yeah, wherever it hits, it leaves a bunch. I mean, that's why it's called paintball.
Did you see any paint on your window?
No,
Were you thinking clearly at that point when you're thinking about that?
I think there's a lot of thoughts that go through your mind. It was a very stressful situation. I've never had someone shoot at me before.
You called 911 and you told us that you drove away from the area, right?
Yeah, I accelerated, went around a corner, and I parked by, there's a pool right there in the community. So I pulled over and parked next to the pool.
I want to show defense defendants different maps of the area.
And yeah, there's plenty to object to if she had a lawyer with her.
Have my
Right.
paralegal approach with exhibits 1.
But it's
Can you look at those 2 exhibits and tell me if you recognize them as maps of the neighborhood, a closer up, as well as a further away map of your Phelps Street address and the streets around it?
Correct. Yes, they are.
And those are sort of accurate maps of that whole area.
Yeah, I'd say they're accurate.
State would move to admit exhibits 1 and 3.
Any objection?
No objection.
1 and 3 are admitted. After you publish, let's recess.
I'm going to start with 1. Actually, I think it's this way. When you were driving to your residence, I'll do it this way. We see here 3875 East Phelps Street. Is that your address at
Yes.
that time? And so it was 2 houses in.
Yeah.
When you were arriving back to your residence that morning of October 2nd, can you describe for us how you came in to the neighborhood?
I guess people probably can't see when I point. Huh? I would have gone up.
Let me pull out just a little bit.
I would have come around where the map kind of starts there. Yeah, where your pen was. If you go down to that corner, I would have come there off Fairview, come all the way up, gone up that street where your pen was, and gone. And that's the way that I came in, where your pen just traced.
So you went through this intersection and then you turned left here, and that's where you saw, as you turned that corner, that Jeep Wrangler.
Correct.
Did you notice if the Jeep had 2 or 4 doors?
2 doors.
Okay. Did you notice anything about the license plate?
It was a Texas plate.
Were you able to get the license plate number?
I was not.
After the shooting, you told us that you sort of took off, and I'm putting exhibit 3 up now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we see Phelps Street. Is that the same street we were talking about?
That is
You told us that you accelerated. Was it this direction on Phelps?
correct.
And what did you do when you got to this intersection?
Made a right on Cole, and you can see there's a pool right up there. I parked right there in front of that
Okay.
pool where that little walkway is, right on the,
So
Yeah.
you parked right near the pool here.
yeah, right where your pen tip was there, kind of by the E.
Were you on the phone with 911 prior to reaching that pool?
Yes, I was on the phone with 911, I think, as I got towards the end of Phelps Street.
Did you see the Jeep as you were there at the pool?
I did, yes.
And where did you see the Jeep go?
It came down Phelps Street, went north on Cole, then it made a right on Waite when it saw me, and then it continued down Waite and made a right down whatever that road is. There's no name on it. And then I lost it at that point. It went down Fairview, and if you go to the bottom of this, it actually exits out onto Pecos Road. So I knew where they had to have gone, because the only way out of that neighborhood is to go down that Fairview Street drive and go around on Francis and then go out onto Pecos. And so that's what I told the police when I told them what happened. I told them that it had exited out onto Pecos.
So basically, the only two ways to get out of your neighborhood was either to go up Cole, where they would have had to go past you to get onto Fry, or to go south to Pecos Road
Correct.
through this neighborhood.
Yes.
We're going to do Amita.
Members of the jury, we're going to recess. We're going to resume at 1 p.m. Please remember the admonition. Please be in the jury room ready to go at 1 p.m.
All right. Well, we got to our first break so far. As we say, I mean, the most obvious thing is that a lot of these questions, like we keep mentioning, are some are objectionable. Definitely the way the form is, and definitely some of the answers that the witness is giving. Some of the classifications and the way that he explains things can be objected to. So, I mean, there's definitely what to be objected to, but it's her choice to decide not to have an attorney with her, and it's not really to her benefit, as we can see. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll see you guys back here soon. Before I do want to...
Does the state have a rough estimate of how much more direct on this witness?
Probably 30 to 45 minutes. We have a 911 call to play, but
Okay. Do you have an update for me on obtaining documents from your investigator?
You can still hear what's going on in court.
So I can't personally communicate with him during lunch break, so I'll have them check into it. And
I guess I didn't know if advisory counsel or your paralegal were able to contact him via email while this was going on this morning.
You did when you asked me.
Well, thank you very much, Leslie, for the 5 Brother Council memberships. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the love and support. And we'll see you guys back here soon.
they did email him, but there's been no response yet.
All right. If anyone gets in contact with him and identifies what documents are needed, obviously, if you email those to our staff, we'd be happy to print them out for you. But please let me know with any updates. Are there you have identifiable specific documents, and have you attempted to contact him on what that is that you need here this afternoon?
If I can meet with my team right after this, I'll make sure that they have a list of everything
Okay.
so we can
All right.
do that.
Please keep us updated.
Okay.
Recess till 1 o'clock. Please be seated.
Some kind of food on that.
The defendant filed a motion over the lunch hour.
Welcome back, everybody. Looks like there's some sort of motion that was filed during the break. Looks like some sort of motion was filed over the lunch hour.
The parties are present, the jury's not present. I guess there was some issue when we had our pretrial conference a couple weeks ago. You had filed a motion to meet with your advisory council over the lunch hour. That was granted, but apparently you weren't.
Oh, we're allowed to see this court TV. Come on now. I'm going to go to another screen.
On the break or?
I guess what we'll do is we'll proceed with direct of this witness, and maybe we'll take a short break when the state's done with this witness, and
Okay.
then we'll try to sort it out.
Okay.
Was there some motion that was filed over the lunch hour?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
It's a 10.1 motion that I thought was filed yesterday, but they just brought a notary in today.
For a change of judge again?
Correct.
All right, well, I guess that can be referred to the criminal presiding judge. We
Sounds
can
like it's
deliver a copy to Judge Green today, and I'm sure she'll get to it as soon as she can. But we'll proceed with trial.
Okay.
Motion to change the judge.
Let's bring in the jury. Can I remind the witness, you are somewhat soft-spoken, so try to remember to get as close to that microphone as you can.
Here, tall red text. Help me understand her. There's no helping you. Try to understand Lori. I don't think anyone can understand her.
When we had broke, we were talking about your travel and the travel of the Jeep after the shooting, correct?
Correct.
In terms of your movement, you told us that the Jeep had gone, I'm going to take this out of the shiny gloss. You told us the Jeep had gone on Phelps up to Cole, and you were here, and that's where you saw it turn on Waite.
Correct.
Were you able to kind of see across here to watch the Jeep?
Yeah, you can't see from this aerial view, but there's just like a fence and there's nothing else there. It's just bushes. So you can see almost that whole street there on Waite from where I was sitting.
Which direction was your car facing? Towards Fry or away from Fry?
My nose was pointed towards Fry.
Okay. So you were able to see the Jeep then continue and turn down this street?
Correct.
After that, did you see the Jeep again?
I didn't.
Where did you go? What was your return route back to your house?
I did a U-turn there on Cole, and then I turned onto Waite, and I drove down Waite and then back onto Phelps.
So sort of following the path of the Jeep as well until you got to Phelps?
Yeah, and then I just pulled into my driveway.
Okay.
And then I sat and waited for an officer.
Were you on with 911 during that whole time?
I was.
Shared defense. Exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14. When you came back to your house, well, let me ask you, I want to ask you some distance. When you first arrived at your house and you saw that Jeep, you told us you'd never seen it before. Can you tell us approximately how far away you were from the back of that Jeep when you heard that gunshot?
Well, you could kind of see in that map, there's only two houses. I was at the end of the first house, and the driveway was on the end half of my house. So I was past the point of my house and moving towards that driveway. So I would probably say a few feet, 15 feet or 10 feet or something like that was the distance.
Do you recall ever saying maybe 20 or so feet?
I'm sure I could have. It was a long time ago.
I've shown the defendant exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14, if I can have my paralegal approach with these exhibits. You can take a look at those and let me know if they depict Phelps Street and the house you rented, as well as some cones to represent different things in the street.
Yes,
Do you recognize all of those?
I do.
State will move to admit 4, 9, 13, and 14.
Any objection?
No objection.
4, 9, 13, and 14
13 and 14.
are admitted.
I'm going to start with 4. In this photograph, we see a police car down here. Is this your car here?
It is.
So is this the street that when you're turning down Phelps, you're talking about coming from this end?
Yes,
So you passed one house and your house is the second house.
correct.
Okay.
And that's the white van that was parked there.
Okay. So we have another photo. Let me first kind of go here. In this photograph, is this your residence? And this is exhibit 9.
Yes,
Okay. And this is your driveway.
correct. It's on the outside
And
edge.
so is this the area? Well, let me ask you, where was the Jeep parked?
You can see just the front of the white van's bumper there. It literally, the bumper of the Jeep was touching that van's bumper. It was just right on top of it. So the back of the Jeep would have been right where your pin point is right now.
So right at the edge of your driveway?
Correct.
I'm going to use 13 and then 14 to give us kind of, we'll go back and forth between them. So in 14 here, is this the white vehicle you were talking about?
Yes,
And this shaded area between the Jeep and the driveway is where you're discussing that the Jeep was parked?
correct.
And then this is your driveway.
Yes,
The rear of the Jeep was facing you.
correct. It was facing towards me.
We see 2 cones here. What do those depict in terms of the location of your vehicle?
The front of my vehicle would be that one that your pen's pointing at, and the back of my vehicle would be there. That's an estimate. Obviously, we were trying to recreate, but that's an estimate about where my car was when I heard the shot and my window shattered.
So at this point, when we were talking about slowing down, had you started to turn into the driveway yet?
No,
So you were still sort of straight forward.
correct.
Okay. And so the distance that we're talking about is what we see here in 13 from this cone to the edge of your driveway here?
Correct.
So a little over the width of your driveway.
Yeah,
Just to get this question out of the way, Brooklyn, can she switch now and say she wants a public defender? Well, that's why she has advisory counsel. So she has advisory counsel in case, for whatever reason, in the middle of the trial, she decides, I can't do this. Can't do this anymore. She can ask the judge, and the judge has the discretion exactly how that's going to work. But that's the point of having advisory counsel. That she at some point she can say, I can't do this, and turn it over to advisory counsel. And as long as she's very clear and explicit about waiving that right again, the judge can allow it.
When you saw the rifle come out of the rear of that Jeep, can you describe for us what you say you saw on the end of it?
It was cylindrical, and it looked a little bigger than a normal. I mean, every muzzle at the end of those rifles has some kind of a sight or usually something on it that they use to when you're shooting. But this looked like it had something different on it. It was a little bigger, and that's why I said a suppressor or. I mean, I didn't get a long look at it, but it definitely stood out to me that it looked a little different. I think that's the part that I described was that it was noticeable.
Okay, so it was wider or bigger than the normal barrel itself.
Correct.
When the window shattered next to you, did anything come in to you that you recognized at that time?
No.
Did you understand at that point there wasn't a hole in your window?
Correct.
As you hear that bang and see your window shatter here, is that then when you accelerate this direction that we see down Exhibit 14?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Okay. And then when you got to the end of this street, which direction did you go?
I went right.
Okay. And then you headed straight up Cole and stopped at that park or whatever with the pool?
Yes.
As you are waiting in the driveway here in your car, did you get out of it? I know you said the door opened, but did you get out?
I didn't get out and look at my car. Door opened, the window fell down, and I think that I just kind of let the window fall there, and I might have moved like part of the window over, but I'm pretty sure I think that and I'd have to probably review, but I'm pretty sure they asked me to stay in my car till the police officer arrived. So I'm pretty sure I just stayed in the car and waited for the officer.
So before the officer arrived, did you look at your vehicle itself? I'm going to put up Exhibit 25 again.
The first time that I looked at the outside of the exterior of my vehicle was actually when the officer walked me over to my car. And both of us at the same time saw on the top of the door frame there's the spot where the bullet hit. And that was the first time that I knew for certain that I had kind of been shot at. And I remember probably another feeling of shock again, kind of like the first time when someone shoots at you and it's loud. And I remember just thinking like, that's really close to where I was sitting. Like it was inches from my head.
On the defendant, Exhibit 26. Brandon, do you recognize what that is a photograph of?
Yes,
What is that a photograph of?
that's the photograph of the top of my car.
That show the bullet hole that you saw?
It does, yes.
State will move to admit Exhibit 26.
Any objection?
No objection.
26 is admitted.
So we see here in Exhibit 26, is this the bullet hole?
That is.
Dumb question, was it there before?
No,
Was your window broken before this?
no,
And you were sitting right here?
correct. You can't see it as well, but that's when you sit in that with the way I was sitting in the chair, my head would have been right at that level.
When you called 911, were you sort of telling them both sort of what had just happened as well as what was ongoing happening, what you're seeing with the Jeep?
Correct.
Did you make that, you told us, as you're immediately driving away from this shooting?
Yeah, I immediately thought the right thing to do was call 911.
Did you tell the operator at one point you were almost out of breath?
Yeah, when I remember when I first called, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I just remember I couldn't breathe. I was like feeling surprised, maybe. I don't think we have a word for that feeling.
Were you scared?
Yeah,
Do you have concern for your life at that point?
yes,
Were you trying to figure out what had just happened?
yes.
I've shown the defendant Exhibit 125, the 911 call. If I could have a legal play that, just have the witness identify himself in it.
Go ahead.
You can approach with the computer.
Yes.
Brandon, if you can just listen to that. Have you listened to your 911 call before?
I have, yeah.
You can listen
Yes.
to that and let us know if you recognize that as your 911 call and as your voice.
Yes, this is my 911 call.
Thank you. Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 125 pursuant to 8031, 8032, and 902.
No objection.
Submitted.
And if we can publish that.
Go ahead.
Gee, I moved to a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove?
October 2nd, 2019. 9 hours, 14 minutes, 53 seconds.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Okay, where
they're in
at?
a Jeep. I'm in the Cooley Station neighborhood. I was pulling in my house at 38755 East Way, but I can see them driving off.
Okay, someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window. It shattered my driver's side window.
Okay, when you pulled into his driveway?
As I was trying to pull in my driveway. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm a little off breath. They just drove off. I saw them drive off.
Okay. Do you know who these people are?
I have no idea. I moved into a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove away?
Jeep Wrangler, had a Texas plate on it. It was,
Jeep
It was,
Wrangler?
yeah, it was olive
Okay.
green.
Olive green? Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. Texas license plate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get the plate. I'm sorry. I got a little nervous.
That's okay. That's all right. Oh, which way did they go? Do you remember?
They're driving south towards Pecos Road, between Pecos and Rector.
Okay. Okay. Do you don't see the vehicle anymore?
No, they left. They drove off.
Did you see how many people were in the Jeep? Sir?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, did you see how many people were in the Jeep?
There must have been at least 2 because somebody shot at me and then somebody else drove off, and I don't think they had enough time to go climb from the back into the front.
Right. Okay. And then do you have any injuries? Did they shoot at you?
They shot at me, it hit my window, it bounced off. It might not have been a real gun. It was loud, but it might have been like a paintball gun or something. 'Cause, I mean, it should have hit me or gone through my window. It just
Okay.
shattered it. It didn't go through.
Okay. Okay. And your window is shattered?
Yeah,
Okay. And you have no idea who these people are?
no idea.
Are you okay?
They were just parked like right in front of my house.
Okay. They were parked out. So they were parked across the street in front of your house?
You know, in front, right on the same side of the street as my house, right in front. There's a minivan there. They're just parked right in front of that.
Okay.
I'm pulling in my house because they're gone.
Okay. Where are you at right now?
In my car.
Where are you at?
in my car at my house at 38
Okay.
East Phelps Street. I'm gonna walk over here and see if I can see what they shot at me.
And what kind of car were you in?
I'm in a black Tesla Model X.
It's a black what?
Tesla Model X.
Okay, black Tesla Model X. Okay. Okay. All right. I do have officers on the way to meet you. Do you want to go inside or do you want to wait outside wherever you feel?
I'll wait out here. Yeah, I don't know that it was a real gun. Maybe it was. I can't tell. I mean, I don't think it was because my window we should have gone through my window.
Okay. All right. And what is your name?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux.
And your phone number?
Sorry, guys, you can't have his phone number.
Okay. I'm going to stay on the line with you just to make sure you're safe, just in case they come back. Do you have any weapons on you?
No.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the officer pulling up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Looks like he's coming up Phelps. You said 3875 East Phelps, correct?
Correct. I wonder if he's on. There's another section of it. He might be on another section.
Okay, because yeah, his car is showing right near Fisher Lane and Phelps Street.
I'm at, what is the cross street? Sorry, I just moved really quick. Yeah, I'm at Fisher and Phelps. I don't see it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. It's funny. His car was showing there for a second, and now it's showing back at Higley and Pecos. So that's kind of weird.
Wonder if he saw the Jeep drive off or something.
Maybe. I know that there's actually an officer that's heading towards you, and then there's other officers that are dispatched that are looking for the car. So we've got several guys looking out for the car, but we have one headed towards your house.
Okay.
I think he accidentally hit his arrive button is what happened because he's still moving. So just out of nowhere, did you see the guy that
I didn't see who it was. It was weird because I was pulling in and I saw a Jeep, Texas plate, and I thought, oh, that's weird. You know, my neighbor must have someone visiting. And then they like lifted up their little back window in their Jeep, and I saw like a muzzle, and then I heard a snap and my window shattered. So I just, instead of turning into my driveway, I just hit the gas and drove off because I didn't know. Then kind of when I got my bearings, I realized I should call 911.
Okay.
So then I drove, and then I didn't drive very far. I just drove around the corner and waited for you guys to pick up, and then I kind of saw them come around the corner and go down the road and start driving down south towards Pecos and Brecker.
Okay. And did they look like Hispanic?
And I knew that was the only way
white
out.
males?
I didn't see a person at all. I didn't get to see a person.
Okay.
I knew there was only one way out of Pecos Manor, and that's down there on Pecos Road. So that's why I told you that.
Okay. All right. I do see the officer pulling up on Fisher from Fairview.
Okay. So he's coming from the other way.
Yeah, just stay away from Fairview.
I'll see him in just a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I see him.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and let you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye.
October 2nd, 2019.
talk a little bit about some of the things that you told the 911 operator? You mentioned in the call that you thought it might be a paintball gun because it should have gone through the window. When you were saying this, were you at all contemplating that there's no paint on your window?
No,
Were you sort of that frantic, you're just trying to come up with excuses or ways to explain what happened?
I was just trying to figure out why a bullet didn't come through the window. A bullet should always go through the window was what was going on in my mind. So I was trying to come up with a reason.
So you didn't know through this whole call that your car itself had been hit?
No.
We hear that you, when you got into the driveway, a loud crash.
Yes.
What was that?
When I put my car into park, when it automatically opened that door, and then the whole window just fell right there. And most of it kind of stayed together, like I think the window tint or something held a lot of it together, but also a lot of it didn't. And it was like all over inside my car and all over on the a little bit on the driveway.
Okay. You also told them that you thought there might be two people. Why did you think that?
I was trying to figure out how someone could have been laying in the back shooting at you and gotten into the front and gotten out of there so quick. I was thinking like you'd have to jump over a chair. It seemed like they moved very quickly. So I think I was just trying to come up with a logical reason how they could have moved so fast.
We can have the Elmo again, please. Thank you. Putting exhibit 1 back up here. So this is the residence that you were arriving back to, correct?
Correct.
And your car was facing this direction west?
Correct.
And so the Jeep itself was also facing west?
Correct.
When you drove up to the pool, is that in this area off of Cole?
Yes.
And were you all the way up here before you saw the Jeep turn on to wait?
I was, yes.
So there was some time actually before the Jeep was able to follow and catch up with you.
Correct. I think in your mind, everything's happening so fast. I was just surprised by how quickly they were moving, but listening to it, for instance, you can hear that there was a lot more time that elapsed than what you thought in the moment.
So time when you were going through this stressful situation seemed faster to you. And now listening to the 911 call that you're talking while this was occurring, you can tell it's a little slower.
Yes.
Do you recall where you were when you were able to finally get your phone and start calling 911?
I was at the end there of Phelps Street, about to turn onto Cole and then I had to unlock my phone. So it took me a couple more seconds around the corner to get it.
Okay. So you were able to drive down Phelps, get into your phone and get up to Cole and park there. And then you saw the Jeep also turn on Cole and then turn on wait.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Did you ever see anyone
As in a
in the
person?
vehicle, in the Jeep?
I didn't see who was driving the Jeep.
When you saw the rear window go up, you couldn't see who was in the back?
I didn't get a look at a person, no.
And then when the Jeep turned, you're looking in your rear view mirror towards it?
Yes, and then because I noticed it, I turned my body and looked out across.
And so as the Jeep came up Cole and turned onto wait, you were not able to see who the driver was?
No.
In the 911 call, we hear the 911 operator refer to the officer as a he. Was the first officer on scene a male or female?
Female.
When the female arrived, you got off the call with 911?
I did, yes.
And did you speak with her and then walk her over to your car?
I did, yes.
And did she point out this bullet hole in your car?
She did, yes.
When you saw that, what happened physically to you?
I remember within a short amount of time, I asked her if I could sit down. I started getting a little bit overwhelmed because I realized that someone shot at me, was trying to kill me. If my head was that close, that's the only logical thing.
Before you saw that bullet hole, were you still sort of trying to explain how there's not a hole in your window?
Yes.
After you saw that bullet hole, did you start to think that someone had tried to kill you?
Yes. I remember I texted my father, told him that.
What did you text your father?
I said, I think someone just tried to kill me.
Were you thinking about how close you had come to death?
Yeah.
As you were experiencing all these emotions and trying to figure out how to handle this and texting your dad, did the police ask if there was anyone that could come stay with you?
Yeah, they did. And because I didn't have any family, I just said, I had my 2 business partners who were really good friends, and I asked if they could come.
Did you have to tell them where to come?
Yeah, they didn't have my address.
Did they come and stay with you?
They did.
Did you eventually move with them across the street to kind of hang out in the shade?
It was hot, so yes, we moved over to a cooler spot as the day went on.
And we see in Exhibit 9, is this actually you guys sitting over here?
That is.
At some point, did a detective come get you and interview you?
Yeah, Detective Pillar came over and got me.
Did he interview you?
Yes, he did.
Where did that interview take place?
We walked around that corner. He had his car parked and in a kind of a shady spot, and we did an interview in his car.
Okay. Was that recorded?
I believe so.
The first patrol officer on scene, that female officer, did she ask you if you could think of anyone who would want to harm you?
She might have. I don't recall. I'm not certain.
Okay. When you met with Detective Pillar, did he ask you if you knew anyone who would want to harm you?
Yes.
Do you remember a lot of your interaction with that first officer?
To be honest, like the part that I remember the most is just when I saw the bullet hole, and I think maybe just kind of got a little bit of shock because it was real when I called 911, but then I kept thinking to myself, a bullet didn't come through my window. And, I just, when I saw that, I just realized like, no, someone is 100% trying to kill me. And then it was kind of an emotional little bit, like I felt a little overwhelmed.
When you talked to Detective Pillar, was that a little bit later, but while you're still sitting here on the scene?
Yes.
Had you had time to kind of get yourself back under control?
Yes.
Do you remember that conversation more than your
Yes.
conversation with the first officer?
Yes, I do.
At that time, when you were asked by Detective Pillar if there was anyone you knew who might want to harm you, were you able to provide any names?
I told him the only person I could think of.
And who was that?
It was 2 people. It was Lori and Alex.
Is that Lori Ballo?
Lori Ballo and Alex Cox.
So the morning of October 2nd of 2019, you have already told Detective Pillar that's who you believed is the only person you could think of who would want to harm you.
Yes.
Had you met Detective Pillar before that morning?
No, didn't know him.
Did you tell the police to tell Detective Hiller that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox had been involved in an incident in July of 2019 in Chandler, Arizona?
I did.
Did you think that that incident had something to do with this?
I did.
You were asked by the police, or do you recall being asked by the police if you had any issues with money or anyone else?
I do.
And did you have anyone else that you could think of that would want to shoot at you?
I did not.
Did you tell the police about your wife Melanie's relationship with Lori Vallow?
I did.
You told us that the Jeep that you saw parked right next to your driveway that we see here in Exhibit 9 had a Texas license plate, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell the police that Lori Vallow had lived in Texas?
I did.
So during the time you had known her, you were aware that she and Charles Vallow had lived in Texas?
Correct.
Did it seem relevant to you that you see a Jeep with a Texas plate in front of your house?
It did.
So on October 2nd, when you were shot at, Melanie was living here in Arizona, correct?
Correct.
And she lived close to your house in Phelps? Within a couple miles?
Within a couple miles, yes.
And she was the only person who, outside those two neighbors and two friends, who knew this address?
Correct.
On October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Lori Vallow was living?
No, I did not.
And on October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Alex Cox was living?
No, I did not.
But in July of 2019, you knew they were living in Chandler, Arizona? Or
Yes, I did.
Lori Vallow was living there. Did you ever learn that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox moved to Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes, I did.
Did Melanie ever move out of Arizona?
Can you restate that?
Sure. Did Melanie, your wife, or maybe by then your ex-wife, ever move out of Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Do you recall when she moved out of Arizona?
The end of October 31st or November 1st, 2019.
And did you learn where she moved?
Next door to Lori.
In
Idaho.
Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
The state has no other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
All
Let's
right,
go,
I need
Lori.
a couple-minute recess to sort out an issue. I'll have
Oh.
the jury retire to the jury room. Please remember the admonition.
All right, jury.
All right, well, before cross-examination, we got to figure out this issue. Let's see what the issue is.
All right, you may be seated. The jury is no longer present. Do you have some exhibits that you could use, or what are you missing, or?
I don't have any exhibits that I need. My investigator has he has the whole file. He has the whole file on Brandon. I tried to get it from him last night, but was unable to get
Are there
in
being
contact.
arrangements made? Maybe your paralegal can pick it up from him tonight or someone?
We're trying to do that, exactly.
Do you have another witness here? Do you mind going out of order?
Your Honor, if that's necessary, we can go out of order so that we can continue proceeding today.
Okay. I'll inform the jury that normally, as we said in the preliminary instructions, that there'll be a direct examination, a cross-examination, and then a redirect examination. But this time, we're going to take a witness out of order, and the defense will cross-examine Mr. Boudreaux at a later time in the trial. If you need me to contact OPDS to try to get something done with getting a hold of your investigator, or you want me to, please let me know before we leave here today.
Okay.
All right,
Judge, if I can just make sure, I told my witnesses too,
okay,
because I obviously didn't know this. So if I could go check and see if they're
Absolutely.
here before we bring the jury in.
that's fine.
And Your Honor, can we make this a 15-minute break or no?
Do you need some time? All right, we'll go ahead and do a 15-minute recess for the court reporter as well. And just let us know when your witness is here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're doing a 15-minute break, which is probably going to turn into a longer break. And I had to cut the stream anyway at 6 o'clock. So I'm sorry, but that's all. That's going to be it for today for Lori Daybell. I was looking forward to her cross-examination, exactly how that was going to go. But apparently she doesn't have the file, which she needs in order to cross-examine this witness. So in terms of my stream, I'm going to have to cut it right here because it's going to get close to when I have to shut it off. Anyway, as Marissa says, we're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of schedule anyway. So, who cares about just waiting anyway? But I saw that there was a lot of chat still about the Karen Reed case. Everyone's in the chat is talking about the Karen Reed case, still wanting to, talk about the different issues there. So we are going to have to recess ourselves until tomorrow morning when Karen Reed case is going to pick up. So we're going to be back here 9 a.m. tomorrow morning for what's supposed to be a full day 28, Karen Reed's case. And of course, we're going to try to hopefully get the recap out also before the weekend. And then what we got is hopefully on Sunday, this time we will have Brother Counsel join us to talk about the everything going on with the Karen Reed case. So that'll also be a good show you don't want to miss. So that's going to be Sunday morning. I have to figure out the time with Solomon, so we'll figure that out. But in terms of the Lori Daybell, we're going to have to take a little break from that. So thank you all for joining. It was a good break from the Karen Reed case. Look at another trial. And we'll see you all back here 9 o'clock tomorrow morning for the continuation of Karen Reed's case. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.